Ayomide here, and guess what? We're back for more incredible journeys into the lives of everyday heroes on the World Without People podcast. Dive into more vibrant stories, shared experiences, and mind blowing perspectives with me in season 2. New faces, new stories, but the same old vibe. So, whether you're a seasoned listener or just stumbling upon this oasis of humanity, welcome. Grab your favorite beverage and join the adventure. Let's celebrate the beauty of the world, one remarkable story at a time. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide, and I am excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, but I'm also especially excited because I get to speak with someone who I met randomly however many years ago, maybe 13 years ago, and now our worlds are colliding, and it's so awesome. And this is always the great thing about, not burning bridges, always just being true, to your character, being good people. I really love that. But anyways, welcome, Rob Young. I'll tell you a little bit more about Rob in a second, but welcome, Rob.
Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I met Rob as my fitness instructor. It's funny because I thought I was fat then. I have been fat and then lost weight since then. But it's so funny because I thought I was fat then. But I was looking for a private instructor at the time. And I don't know if I even lived as close, but it was close from my church at the time. And so we met, 2011, 2012.
Yeah. I left corporate America. Yeah. You actually met me when I was in the transition of leaving corporate America to become a full-time trainer. Follow my passion.
That's awesome. And that leads very well to the very first question, because I saw something on Instagram today that was talking about how to introduce yourself. I'm not really good with that. And so it said, talk about your present, talk about your past, and then talk about your future. So that's how I want you to introduce yourself today: your present, your past, and your future.
Today I am spending more time than ever doing indulging in family. I bought a house away from my gym, end up shutting the gym down to spend more time with my kids. Because anyone who's familiar with entrepreneurial life, family and entrepreneurial life have a collision course, because your children, your significant other, they need attention, your time, and your affection, and your business also needs your attention and your time. So those two worlds collide. So finding that balance was very difficult over the years. And from meeting you and making the decision to leave corporate America and work for a big box gym at the time, and then 2016, 2017, open my own location. So there was an evolution process from us working together to me opening my own space to now having bought a house away from North Jersey, down where I'm at, and spending more time with family. And still, I decked out my garage, and I still very much into fitness and training, but on a much more exclusive boutique style now. So.
Right. Awesome. And so you said you were in corporate America. I don't actually even remember that. So what was your quote unquote past in corporate America?
Yeah, so believe it or not, I did like everyone else's parents that said you need to go off to college and get your education. I followed suit because I come from military parents, and started going to school for exercise science at first. The program I was in over at Keene University was geared more towards being a school teacher. Keene University was known for being an education school. And a gym teacher is not what I wanted for myself. So I stuck. Business and marketing has always been a passion of mine as well. So I stuck on that side. End up getting into graphic communications, is a nice fancy way of saying lithography, into printing. I'm an ink technician by trade and degree. And I did that for a very long time. It pays well. I was supporting my family, but I wasn't happy. Being around people, helping people, it's something inside me. And I didn't even realize it was my passion, if you will, until I started having my struggles and my mental discomforts of I'm isolated away from people. I'm not around people. I want to help people. I'm at work thinking about my client's next training program, things of that nature started just speaking to me. And I had to find a way and a means to pursue that passion as a full-time career. And I did so. In 2012, I started building up my clientele.
Right.
And I believe it's RWJ Fitness and Wellness. I started building up my clientele to match my income from the day job. And when I got close enough, I handed in the keys to the company car and said, thank you, but no thanks. I'm going to pursue my own thing from here forward.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
and by the grace of God, with there's a lot of personal ups and downs that come with trying to pursue your passion, getting to the business of, whatever your passion is. The ups and downs aren't just in that realm of expertise that you're pursuing. It comes with balance in your personal life as well. So there was a lot of twists, turns, ups and downs, but we did it. We did it successfully. I have no regrets. I am extremely grateful that, the good Lord blessed me with the right mind to say, hey, this is what I love to do, and I want to do it full time. And I got to do it full time for 8 years before pandemic. Pandemic is what changed everything.
Okay, we're gonna get to pandemic, but before that, you talked a little bit about the mental struggle, and I love hearing when men are open and honest about those things. So, what did you do at that time as you were struggling? What were the keys that helped you overcome those mental struggles?
Nothing will prepare you for your first. So entrepreneurship comes with every month's income is an invoice in which you have to collect. And you have to understand that no matter what industry you're in, if you're servicing people, they're entrusting that you have an ability to help them through whatever their problem is. And that's why you're invoicing them and then paying the invoice on time, so on and so forth. So your income, though it's your passion, your income is directly decided by people's willingness and ability to pay you for what you do. And if you don't have a good month, your kid still has dance recital, football practice, like you name it. And I had 3 kids. I had 3 children, 3 younger children at that time. I decided to pursue it. So I had to be proficient, to say the least, at what I did so that I'm able to enjoy going. I can go into work at 5 a.m. and I can get out at 10 p.m. and it not feel like work, because fitness is my passion. However, I am a leader, a provider, and, the head of my household at that time. So I can't just bask in that victory, in that portion of victory throughout the process. I have to make sure that I'm still handling my fatherly and husbandly duties of the time. So it was, it came with months that were very slow. I remember in my separation at the time, I had to make the toughest phone call ever to we were separated at the time, but to my wife at the time, I had to make a phone call and say I didn't have enough money to put gas in my car to get down to see my children. And people don't know that. People see the success of the gym and they believe that I just catapulted there. But there was a time in which I had to really find a way to hold on to my faith and remain humble and make that phone call. Like, I genuinely don't have enough cash flow to put gas in my car to get down to see my children. So that was a very hard phone call to make as a man, because there's nothing, as passionate as I am about fitness, I knew before I knew what I wanted to do for a living that I wanted to be a father. I knew that with that, hands down. That was in my heart. So that being a part of who I am, that was a very gut-wrenching call to make, to say that my passion is not going as well as it's, started out or it was. And I'm now in this position where I can't even afford to see my children.
Wow. Wow. But practically, I guess, what did you do? Like, did you see a therapist? Did you just hold on to God? Did you talk to friends? What helped you survive?
You have to have a verbal outlet, right? On top of your faith life, your prayer life, you have to have an outlet with someone that you can, kind of plug into and say, hey, this is what I'm going through and these are the feelings I'm having. For me, because I'm in the people business when it comes to fitness and health, I had clients who were older gentlemen that mentored me, from a doctor in dentistry, from a gentleman who owned a landscaping company for years. So I had these older men of experience and wisdom when it came to entrepreneurship and family. They all had families. So I was always able to turn to an older male figure and kind of vent, because they gave me that. As much as I was coaching them for their health, they had been me before, right? These gentlemen they're my, 15 to 25 year plus, right? So they have been where I was walking, and I mean, they were there for my grand opening, right? Like when I said, hey, I'm opening my own place, every single one of my clients were like, well, we're going where you're going, and everyone's there. So these individuals appreciated me and loved on me enough to say, hey, like, I wish you all the best in your business. I'm going with you to be, a customer / client, but in the same notion, I want you to understand that you can be your vulnerable self with me, because they wanted to see me succeed in business and in life.
Right.
And you can't thank God enough for putting those individuals in your life and in your path along the way to kind of give you that grown man advice. That's what
No. And that's why I asked, because I think, again, people don't realize how important sometimes those are. Like, it's great to also, go to therapy. We'll definitely advocate for that. But you said something, you always need a verbal outlet. And sometimes there's nothing more than somebody who's walked in your shoes, particularly, right? Who understands, as a man, as a leader, as a, those kind of things. So I think that's very helpful to understand. Okay, so we're still going to the future, but let's talk about pandemic. So what happened during pandemic?
Wow. So with all the people, and this still blows my mind to this day. So pandemic hits, I sit around for 2 weeks like everybody else. And when they finally confirmed that gyms are closed, I was like, I need income, because that absolutely, I wasn't one of I know I've heard that gyms kept their membership kind of monthly memberships rolling and stuff. I couldn't find myself to do that. I was like, they're unable to use the facility. How do I continue to charge them? So trying to be the honest, faithful person I was like, well, I can't do that. So I made a phone call to my old employer, the one that I handed the car keys to and left. And actually, I called up a friend that I maintain friendships with there. And I was like, "Are you guys happen to be looking for somebody?" Because I knew printing was going to be considered essential, right? Like packaging still needs to get made, so on and so forth. So he goes, "Yeah, but it's way down exit 4 on the turnpike." So at this time, I'm living by Hackensack. So for those that are not familiar with New Jersey, that's North Jersey. Exit 4 is South Jersey. So it's an hour and a half ride one way. And that's all they had available. And by this time, I want to say I am divorced at this time.
Yeah.
And I know my ex-wife wasn't going to hear I don't have my monthly payments. That's not a thing. So I was like, okay, I need to do something. I make the phone call. They say yes. I take the position, and I'm driving an hour and a half one way for work, which, okay, it's great. I'm back in the industry after 8 years. Like, I never left. I'm making consistent money now, right? Like, you got a steady paycheck. And I'm waiting to hear from what's going to happen with gyms. And then boom, September of 2020, you're allowed to start taking personal training clients again. Now, what am I going to do? Now I have this full-time job. And I start reaching out to clients to see, because you still can't open full capacity. So I'm not charging memberships. So who is coming back? Because a lot of the members I had that were that 50 plus age, they were not having it. They were like, look, as much as I want to come back, and I get it, social distancing, wiping the machines down. There was a good handful of people that were like, we're not doing that. There's other people who were like medical professionals that were like, I need this for my sanity, because they were frontline workers. So the money wasn't the same. So I was like, okay. So I was able to work out schedule with the boss, where I kind of did 410s, and they were putting me in a hotel Monday, and to kind of alleviate some of the commuting pressure. They were putting me in a hotel Monday and Tuesday night. So I was doing online classes from the hotel room, believe it or not, when gyms open back up. And then I was driving back and forth Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I was just doing gym pretty much from Thursday night all the way through Sunday. So there was no quality of life. I did that for 2 years straight, from 2020 to 2022. And I mean, I made great money, and it afforded me my house. So you'll never hear me gripe and complain about that, because there's so many people looking for work at that time. I had the pleasure of still being able to run my business, though it was spreading me thin, and having a job, which, I mean, I had double the income. And that put me in a position to buy my home, and I got to move closer to my children and all that other good stuff, which prompted the commute now. Because by that time, I didn't want to commute more than 15 minutes anywhere after that. so after that 2 years of doing all that driving, the gym just being 35 minutes away without traffic, because, Jersey, you hit traffic, that's an extra 15, 20 minutes.
Always.
It was just too much. I was like, the gym is not bringing in the same money. I had just switched companies in the corporate end, so I'm making more money. I'm 15 minutes away from home. Like, everything was in alignment. I'm literally across the bridge from church, right? So it's like everything is just kind of falling in alignment for my personal life. And I had to slow down, and really, I had to pray a lot. I had to try to hear the voice of God say, like, shut it down. You own the brand. You own the LLC. Reinvent yourself. And I actually initially shut it down September of 22 thinking that I wasn't going to do fitness ever again. I was like shutting it down. Like, this is my personal space. If a couple clients want to come to my garage and work out, great. If
Yeah.
not, life as a fitness trainer, like full time, that's no longer a thing. And then my brother kind of stepped in and was like, there's no way you give up 18 plus years of fitness just like that. He was like, everything's online now. Give it a shot. See what you can come up with. So I started doing some research, and I found a nice app and online platform that's been super. It's been a very healthy surprise, because I didn't think, I had the old school thinking where I was like, as a trainer, you have to be in person, not really understanding that the online, like the app and the online atmosphere, actually, it holds people more accountable. And it really, because I can see everything. People don't know. I can see, I get charts and stats of everything. So how well someone's doing, how strong they're getting. I was like, wow, this is actually more, at times it's more efficient than it was in person, because people would come see me twice a week for that hour. And then, or let's just say the single day, right? They'd come train for a day, the other 23 hours, they would do whatever they wanted. Oh, I saw my trainer, so I did what I was supposed to. No, you're supposed to be eating right. You're supposed to be, there's a lot more that goes into the lifestyle of this fitness thing. So to just say, I saw my trainer, is you really just appeasing yourself for the day to say, well, now I can go have my Oreos. I can, you list up, like people have a stack of things they do once they're done seeing me for the day. And it's not beneficial to the goals in which they said that they wanted for themselves. So the app kind of eliminates that, because everything is front and center. And it's really, the people who have gotten on there have done, I would say, I want to say better, but they've done it more efficiently, if you will, because the system, there's structure and there's a system in place, which they know that we're on both ends looking at the same thing. So saying, hey, I saw my coach for the day and that's it, it's not a thing. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. Okay, so now we talked past, present. Now, when you think about the future, and I like how you're saying part of it was pandemic now making you come into this online space. But when you think about the future, even in general, personally, as well as for fitness, where are you going? What's the vision?
I now have the leisure to be very selective with who I work with, because it's no longer my main source of income. So my paycheck from my day job handles my fatherly responsibilities. It gave my personal life an amount of stability, which allows me to pursue my fitness and my passion with, I don't want to say selectiveness. That sounds wow, but I am. I'm allowed to be selective, because when I get on a coaching call with someone and I see that they're not really passionate about their own goals, that there becomes a work imbalance. And that work imbalance is, I want to see them achieve their goals more than they want to. And it just doesn't, I end up getting stressed out, because it's like, they would be like, okay, I'm gonna knock out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I end up being like that, and I'm seeing that they're missing days and they're not logging their food. And I'm like, okay, how did I get here? So now it's like, I almost get to do a pre-screening. And when I get on a consulting call with someone and I see that they're actually passionate about it, I'm like, okay, boom, boom, boom. Here are the programs I have. Let's select one and let's go for it. But if I see people aren't passionate, I'm like, I'm probably not going to fit your budget. And it's really not about budget, but it's easier to mention money, because most people hear, when you say money, most people hear it, and they'll kind of start back. When you make yourself sound too expensive, in their mind, oh, he's already too expensive. And it's almost intentional, where it's like, okay, well, you're not giving me that concrete, look, my goals are, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important are your goals to you? If you're giving me a 7 and below, I'm starting to look at you a little sideways, those sideways eyes, like, what do you mean 7? like if your health is not an 8, 9, or 10, I'm probably not going to take you on as a client, because I feel like we're going to find ourselves in the spot where you're motivated for the first 2 weeks, and then you're not as motivated later. And then I find myself chasing you around, as opposed to us working together so that I can coach you to where you want to be. So I don't have to take on, before, when fitness was my only income, I had to take anybody and everybody, because I had bills to pay. Right. So it's like, some of those mindsets I had to take on were actually pulling away from the passion of coaching, because it was more like pulling teeth. And it's like, hey, I don't want to stress you out. I don't want to be stressed out. So let's not do this song and dance, and you come back when you're ready. Or maybe you need another coach. Like, you have to be honest with yourself sometimes, and you're not the fit for everybody. A big part of being a personal trainer and a coach is Do your personalities mesh? Do you
Yeah.
guys get along? Can you guys
Yeah.
communicate well? Because you're taking someone through a lifestyle change, and there's a lot of ups and downs that come with that. There's a lot of things that need to be unpacked from people's past of why they feel the need to, like, especially for emotional eaters, if you will. So everyone has a history, everyone has a past, and a part of this coaching thing comes with this unseen psychological degree, because you really have to help people get over some serious, deep hurdles at times to get to where they want to be. So it's being selective is good. Being selective has been great.
No, I think that you make an excellent point, because back then I think I was motivated enough for the working out, but then there would be you, and still is, like, I'm traveling for another 3 weeks and then I'm gone for another 2 months, and like timing difference, because like half of the time I'm in a country where it's the time difference is an issue. Or even, for example, the fact that like logging Nigerian food is too hard for me. I'm sorry. I every time I'm like, I'm ready, and then logging Nigerian food is just too difficult for me. I cannot explain what it is that I'm doing compared to, like, or if I went out to a meal, because or if I bought something online and everything. Those are actual real issues, and I know you were very understanding at the time, but I understand it now, where you're like, you know what, there's only so much of this I can do. Maybe me, because you know me, but like, it's only so many people you can adjust. You have to feel like you're adjusting for all the time. So I mean, without you getting the psychology degree, I guess, how did you prepare yourself for that? Was it just trial and error, or do you think you should go get a psychology degree the more you do some of this? What do you think?
Nothing. Look, I'm all for book education. However, on the job training is twice that in its weight in gold, because when you go through it, whether you fail at it, right, whether it goes wrong and you have a lesson, or it goes right and you have achieved something, right? Like, it's like, oh man, like I can help people get over this. Like, we did well together with this. There's a lesson on either end of it when you have to go through it. And I actually benefit from growing up in the church and having very structured, disciplined parents allowed for me to I lived this lifestyle based off of principles, right? From being hardworking. That's part of the creed for the company as well. So these principles are what allows me to live this structured life that people kind of look at me and say, I want you to be my coach. Like, I see that you're fit. I see that your house is in order. You seem like you always got things under control, which, that's control's an illusion too. But like, people look and they say, well, he looks like he has it together, and that's the direction in which I'm trying to travel. So people will, reach out to me or recommend me as a coach, because they actually know I'm not just blowing smoke, right? I'm not just saying, hey, I'm a fitness trainer, and because I've been an athlete since I was 9 and I look like this, I can help you do that. It's much deeper than that. It's not always just the aesthetics. There's a piece in time being on the job. I've learned that so many people have a unhealthy relationship with both the process, whether it be fitness, whether it be careers, whether it be, lifestyle changes, the process, and also having a healthy relationship with food and understanding. Because we've been, well, let me speak for America specifically, right? Even though I've been abroad several times, so on and so forth. American food culture is by far the most unhealthiest thing that is out there. We allow additives in our food that when you go to Europe, it's not a thing. They don't allow it. So we are literally, not only are we working against our own poor habits that have been instilled, in us through our parents or whomever raised us, but we're now dealing with a society or a food culture that says, hey, we can make food however we want as long as it's profitable. So health is not the first thing on their mind. I don't care if the FDA approves of it. I don't care if any of it. They're literally making food for profit. And they will, whatever gives it longer shelf life, whatever can maximize the profit margin so they can make it as cheap as they can make it. And they can sell it for as much as they can sell it so that they can maximize their margin. So we also have to battle against that and actually helping people learn, the difference between making your eggs at home and getting your eggs from Dunkin' Donuts. People are like, oh, it's still an egg. Not necessarily. Like
Not
if
really.
you saw the way they popped that thing in the microwave and just popped it out the little paper carton, you'd be like, wait a minute. So it's like really trying to help people understand that it's the little things. Here in Jersey, bagels are culture. right? It's part of
Yeah.
life. People not understanding that a bagel, depending, where you're getting it from, but those homemade large bagels are equivalent to 6 slices of bread. And people are like,
Damn.
wait a minute, 6? And it's like, yes. That's
Mm.
why you see some people peel the inside of the bagel out. It's so much dough. It's
Mm.
so calorie dense, or I should say carb dense, a bagel. So it's like really trying to help people understand what it is they're doing to themselves, and also see that, look, the food industry in this country is they're not your friend. They're not here to
Yeah.
give you the healthy stuff.
Yeah.
They are here to make money, and that's all they care about. And we have to kind of have like a vigilant mindset when it comes to food, because they are trying to make sure that we are unhealthy and unfit and on medication, because our health industry is for profit.
Yeah.
And it's a very disappointing truth, but it's a truth nonetheless. And the more people understand that, you have to be, again, vigilance not always looked at as a positive word, but you do have to be vigilant about what's going in your system, because you are what you
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah, no, I think I 100% agree. I think that's been very helpful in my journey here. I think, and I will say thank you for that, because once we did that and I figured out food, I just don't know the last time I've gone through a drive-through for something. Like, a donut is a hard thing. Bagels are a lot. I mean, it's just a lot. So it's a once in a lifetime, kind of like once a month. I don't even know the last time I've had a bagel, to be fair. Now I want a bagel. I don't know the last time I've had one. So I definitely agree with that. And what I do want us to talk a little bit about that, because there's so much about, okay, be gluten free, or don't eat meat, and everything should become vegan. But again, to your point, all I hear with a lot of, especially this whole no meat thing, is process. Process. Everything seems so processed to me, regardless. So you're not even giving me a fresh out of the, because again, I'm Nigerian, fresh out of the field and fresh out of the the farm thing. You're giving me as a substitute processed food. So for example, I will always eat meat, because for me it is still quote unquote natural compared to the
Hmm.
option that you're
Hmm.
giving me. So I just want you to talk a little bit about that. What are you seeing with the food industry that, maybe people need to be more careful, even if they're telling us that it's healthy?
Farm to plate is hard to find, but farm to plate is, the ideal situation. I'm also was blessed enough to be born to a very Dominican mother, so all those island cultures
Mm-hmm.
and island ways of food, like I was raised on them. So a lot of food at home was made from scratch. So I got to experience and learn that, food is to come from substance. The minute you're cracking open a bag, you should start asking questions, because if all your
Mm-hmm.
food's coming out of a bag, coming out of a can, out of a box, we got problems.
Mm-hmm.
we got problems. So, having a mother that wanted to go get the sweet potatoes, go get the potatoes, the onions, and all the seasoning. She makes her own seasoning from home, nothing out of the
Mm-hmm.
bottle. Speaking to all my Black Americans, like, Larry seasoned salt is the devil in a bottle, all that sodium and that stuff. And I know they don't want to hear that, but it literally goes down to the seasonings in which you're using. And I know Lawry's is not used in everyone's home, but it is
Right.
a staple, as far as like people make jokes about it. It's part of Black culture, and it's not good
Yeah.
for us. So
Yeah.
finding means of seasoning your foods with a much healthier, what is it? Not necessarily organic, but
Sure.
being it, yes, natural, being able to start from, my mother puts it all, the parsley and the sofrito and everything, like it's all put in there. I'm sorry, the sofrito is the in product,
The
but she's
flour.
putting the
Yeah.
cilantro, yeah, the
Yeah.
cilantro and the onions and everything, the garlic, it's all being put in there, and she makes her own. And you can't speak enough about, when you do it yourself, you know what's in it, and you know it's coming from the source. Because they're finding ways to get around labeling what's in these things. Like I said, like when it says other natural flavors,
Mm-hmm.
the people who make our perfumes are the same people who make the flavors for your food. So if the perfume you spray on your body is a chemical, and you ever got it in your eyes or in your mouth, and it's a chemical, it's nasty. It
Wow.
tastes nasty. You got in your eyes, it burns. They're making the flavor for your food too. So when you drive past Popeyes and you smell the chicken, that's flavor. That's flavor they put in
Okay.
food.
I never knew that. You learn a new thing every day. This is why I do this podcast. It's so amazing. Okay. All right. That is very, very interesting. My mom swears by Goya as far as non natural, like her not making her spice. She thinks Goya is at least a lot more natural. I don't know why. I mean, she's Nigerian, so I don't know why there's something about it.
I don't know that it's again, because once you become so large and demand becomes so high, how are you fulfilling that? Are you hiring everybody's abuela to get in the back and make actual sofrito? Like, are you?
Hmm.
It's not a thing. Like, even when I go to restaurants, people think I'm joking. I will go to the only hole in wall restaurant, and I want to know if your abuela, your grandmother, I
Hmm.
want to know. I want to know if one of the elders are in the kitchen getting it in. Because if they are, I know the
Hmm.
food. And I know if I look back there and you hired a cook or a chef, I'm asking questions. Well, where do you guys get your
Hmm.
meat? Where like you gotta kind of understand, because again, when the FDA's proven this pink slime to be a filler
Yeah.
for your meats,
Yeah.
I want to know if that's in my food,
Hmm.
because I want to stay as far away from that as possible. I don't know if you ever seen the process of imitation crab meat. I can't even believe they even refer to it as crab meat.
No, that's why I was asking you earlier, because I don't understand the idea of any of these things called imitation, or like I said, all the so-called meats and chickens and all these things that are supposed to be the, I guess, vegan version or whatever they're calling it. So not
Uh,
meat, yeah, the not meat, what they call them?
Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat is
Beyond meat things, exactly. And not understanding, because you have to be filling it with something.
yes, and I mean that is I don't so vegan cheese I heard is terrible for you. It's not, because it's not real cheese, one.
Yeah,
So the process they're putting it through, it's actually not healthy. So being vegan was at one time looked at this label of, discipline and, oh, you're
right,
doing the healthy thing. But
right.
you'll notice a lot of vegans, I mean, there are not a lot of vegans that are fit, if you will,
Yes,
because they believe, well, because I'm not eating meat or any kind of animal byproduct, that I'm living a healthier life. And you could be. I mean, there are vegans that are, but they're also doing everything from scratch, from the
right,
plant. So when you say whole food, they're actually doing that. There's other people where you're going to get a box of vegan this, you're going to get a can of vegan that, and then that's where the process comes in. So people just have to be very mindful that if you're not getting from the source and doing yourself, you're probably in danger, at least here in the States, you're in danger of being involved in any kind or consuming any kind of processed food.
okay,
It's very much possible.
okay.
It's a thing. It's a thing that we have to, I guess, vocalize more and say it out loud, so that we start being, again, vigilant when it comes to, we don't want to partake in your, food for profit. We
Right.
want to partake in making sure that we're eating and we're not destroying ourselves, and we're keeping cancer at bay, and we're keeping high blood pressure at bay and diabetes. So it's really trying to push back against the industry. And the more that we don't buy those products, the more they're going to have to change the way in which they present food to us.
Okay.
But we just have to be more vigilant.
Okay. I mean, I think that makes sense. So the point being more to plate, for lack of a better term. However,
Mhm.
when we think about it again, and we're going to focus on America because that's where we are at, how practical is some of that? For example, I don't want to be, it's not even that I don't want to be. There's, it's unlikely for me to find chickens or to host, not host, like, what's the word? Breed chickens, for my egg
Mhm.
or for my chicken. Because in Nigeria, literally, you literally can buy the chicken itself
Right,
and
right.
somebody at home
Yep.
just cuts it up. Like, literally, we don't see that over here. I do actually know there are chicken places over here, so I do use those, and then sometimes get eggs from them. But again, when we think about it from a convenient standpoint, like I said, I like my meat, I like my turkey, but I don't know where they're doing it. I don't know where they're cutting it from, because again, maybe there are some places, but then again, it will be like an hour away from me, 2 hours away from me. I know, like, sometimes, again, Nigerian community, you hear some people say, "Oh, who wants to share like a goat?" Because they know, like, they're gonna go to the farm to go buy it, and then but 10 people have to
Mhm.
kind of come together to do all of that. I'm single; it's just me at home. That just seems like a lot of work. So, what are, I guess, practical ways that you could encourage people to do this? Is it just really making sure you're reading labels? But to your point, they could be, writing the labels to still make themselves like the minimal
Seem
thing
like,
that they
yeah.
have,
Yep.
exactly the minimal thing that they have to do, which is not true. So, how do you encourage people or help people make those decisions? Especially, I think, really sometimes for single people, because practically it just seems like a lot of work to try and do all of those things and put food in the fridge and all of
Yep.
that.
Staying away from, so your big chains. And I mean, I don't, are we allowed to say names? Because I mean, I can start names. I could run off some grocery stores you want to stay away from. And the
Absolutely.
number one that everyone's at is ShopRite. If you get
Hmm.
ShopRite, you're probably getting the typical. You're probably getting the typical hormone filled,
Mm.
not grass fed, that
Mm.
kind of thing when it comes to your red meats. So I always say, look, try to find your local butcher. Your local butcher gets his meats. They normally have a relationship with, farms in the area or local distributors who get, the farms from Pennsylvania, so on and so forth, that
Right.
bring the meats into the area. So your local butcher is always an option. There's not many of them left, but there's always some a couple towns over. They're still out there. So,
Okay.
and the thing with the local butcher is they're very honest and open. The butcher's
Mm.
usually behind the counter chopping up the meat, and you can say, hey, like, which farm did you guys get the chickens from today? Like,
Yeah.
they answer those questions. Your local farmers market. I know Roselle Park has a weekly start. Actually, they should be starting soon because the weather's starting to
Mm.
break. I want to say probably like mid-April, they have a weekly farmers market where you can get your vegetables, your fruits. I
Mm.
don't remember seeing meat particularly, but I know when it comes to your vegetables, your fruits, some of your grains, straight from the farm, right
Okay.
there at the farmers market. A lot of towns still do it. That's one good thing you can say about Jersey is Jersey does have
Yeah.
quite a few during this time, farmers markets and things of that nature, where you can really speak to the people that are growing it
Yeah.
and find out what their process is. Are they using pesticides? Like most of them are open about that.
Yeah.
So your local butcher and take advantage of your farmers markets.
Okay. As far as stores though, are there any good stores like a big chain? So like would you say like a
Oh
Whole
man.
Foods?
I mean Whole Foods, but I mean if you want to pay $150 for five things, by all means.
Exactly.
I mean Whole Foods. I like Trader Joe's as well.
Okay.
Trader Joe's is a place that I go to. Their management is actually very open to answering questions if you have questions. So
Okay.
there is no in a grocery store there is no dumb question
Okay.
that can be asked except for the larger ones. It's hard to find someone that's going to be able to give you an answer.
Yeah.
Most employees, I just work here
Yeah.
where you go into some of the Trader Joe's and the manager can actually speak to, oh, this is being shipped in from here. So Trader Joe's is one that's not as expensive, but still has healthier options. Not everything though. They do have some products in there I would stay away from. And my experience, I I still have to do some further research when it comes to Aldi's.
I know. I was gonna
Um,
ask about
I
Aldi.
know I know people swear by it, and it's a German, if I'm not mistaken, it's a German chain, which having lived in Germany as a young boy and then
Mm.
in the middle of my high school career, I was able to really get a view of German culture, and they are very particular about their food and the way they do things. So you would hope that the fact that they don't allow certain things, because Aldi is a German company, being that they don't allow a whole lot of things over in their home base that they
Right.
wouldn't. Oh well, they're a lot more loose with the way they do things there. So let's hope that they're
Okay.
not taking part in that for food for profit approach here in the
Yeah.
United States.
That makes sense. I will definitely look more into Aldi. Like you said, Whole Food is right by me, and I'm just like, this is not practical. When I was in Maryland for like a little bit, I tried the Mom's Organic Market. Again, it's good, like maybe as a single person, but like this is also still not sustainable. Like I don't want to spend a quarter of my income on groceries. So like that's crazy. Okay, all right. So what do you think about Wegmans?
Wegmans, so I initially thought Wegmans was a New Jersey movement. Come to find out, it's a New England movement, that
Okay.
Massachusetts area. Again, that's the thing. That's that. You got to be selective. They have some things that I've noticed are good, and
Mhm.
I've had seen other things where it's like, oh, you're not getting over on me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think what it is that they have numbers, they have financial goals that they have to meet, right?
Yeah.
They're in this huge building, they have to make the rent, so they have to make money. So at the end of the day, some of that food for profit is going to make its way onto the shelves.
Yeah.
But I do feel like Wegmans does give you healthy options. I think they
Okay.
kind of give you both, where it's like, look, you want the cheap, quick fix, here it is. But they also offer you a more, farm to plate or farm to store kind of options every time I've been there. So I've kind of seen both in Wegmans.
Yeah.
Where
Eh,
ShopRite is like everything cheap.
yeah.
Everything's cheap, everything affordable. Same thing with Walmart. Everything's cheap,
Yeah.
everything's affordable, and that's because everything's processed. Everything's in a bag.
Whew. Yeah, no, you're giving me something to really think about. But I think one thing that again, and I know it may seem, I don't want to say lazy, but it is. it is true. It's that you really do have to be intentional, because now you're talking about going to maybe several places to do your groceries, as opposed to ShopRite, where you can get everything done, or you can go to a super Walmart and get everything done, and even just to order. Nowadays, I can just order everything and
Yeah,
somebody
your
picks
food
it
get
up for
delivered.
me.
Yep.
Exactly. So I think what you're basically saying is we need to get back to the process of going out there to go pick our own stuff.
Yes, get your own food and develop a kitchen culture for yourself. Don't
Mm.
be afraid to make it yourself. A lot of people, they want, that's the same thing with the prepared foods. I think every client I've had since prepared foods and all these little fit meal companies have come
Mm.
out, people are looking for, and I get it because we live, again, American culture, 60 hours a week, move as fast as you can, get as much done, 6-day work weeks. A lot of people live that lifestyle. So time is of essence. So they need to be able to pull it out, pop it in the microwave, eat it, and get right back to what they're doing. So just finding, again, even when you're using those meal prep companies, just making sure that they're doing right by you.
Mm.
And they're not trying to find the cheapest meat out there and saying, hey, this is chicken and brown rice. That's what they said
Yeah.
they wanted, so we're going to get it to them. If they're buying it from ShopRite just like you were, they're not doing you any favors.
Okay.
All they're
So,
doing is poor proportion control, because a lot of those meal prep companies are portion
right.
control. What they're sending
Exactly.
you is the portion that is right for you, as opposed to you loading up your plate because you're eating with your eyes because you've been busy all day and this is your first meal of the day. So to avoid that, the more you're able to implement discipline and structure into your life, the less you have to pay for someone to do it for you.
Hmm. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Now, I'm going to ask one final fitness question, because I don't know if you remember, but what I do is just not eat. Like, it's 3:32 and I'm not fasting and I haven't eaten and I've had coffee and I've drank water, and that's about all, because then I think about after this I have a meeting and all of that, and it might be 6 o'clock and I still won't eat a lot, because by the time I'm done making the food, it's just too much. So sometimes I do go easy, but it's at least what I have at home as opposed to anything at all. But I think my question is just around the idea that, again, sometimes it's not that we don't want to do the right thing. Like you mentioned, it's just timing and just how you kind of discipline yourself. But what would you say to people who are not really good with eating? Because sometimes we focus so much on people who eat a lot and eat out of, stress and eat, but there are a lot of us who actually, I'm just not a foodie.
Undereater.
Yeah,
Undereaters.
exactly. Yeah. And it works for me because literally I'm like, oh, it's intermittent fasting. So I eat once a day and I'm good. So what would you say to people like me?
So here goes the dirty secrets about undereaters. A
Mm.
lot of times, undereaters are eating 800 or less calories, and the body cannot sustain itself on
Mm.
800 calories a day. That unless you're an 80-pound person, it's not a thing.
Mm.
So is the fasting part of it good? If you're drinking your coffee just black
Yeah. Oh,
and you're so if you're putting
almond
sugar,
milk though. Almond milk or organic or oat milk.
well, if you're not checking the label of your almond or oat milk, it probably has a little bit of sugar in there. If not, it
Okay.
has a artificial sweetener in it. Anything that sparks the insulin in your body, you're no longer fasting. The minute you spark insulin production in your body, the fast is over. So if you're not drinking your coffee black, if you're not just drinking straight water with nothing in it, you are breaking your fast and you don't even know it. So your body's not fasting the way you would hope. So,
Ooh.
and if you're going to eat that one meal a day, which that's a thing, that's a style of eating, and it's very beneficial. A lot of fighters do one meal a day, right? Because it helps them
Mm.
make weight. You have to know what your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate. You got to know
Okay.
what your body needs a day to survive, because that's what you're trying to eat to, right?
Okay.
Because by the time you get your workout in, by the time you get through your day and your calorie expenditure, you want to be in a sustainable caloric deficit. So my
Okay.
undereaters are renowned for eating less than 800 calories a day. A lot of them have headaches. A lot of them
Mm.
feel weak. A lot of them don't have energy to work out. And I'm like, well, you know where this is coming from, right?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lack. You are lacking. Calories have gotten this negative connotation. If I said, I think I butchered that word just
Yeah.
now.
Connotation. We got it.
um, um, so people avoid them, not understanding that calories are fuel, but
Mm.
are energy. and it depends how you're utilizing it, right? So when you consume it, not all calories are created equal, right? A sugar calorie and a sweet potato calorie are not the same thing. One's a complex carb, the other one is just hollow carbs. There's hollow calories that aren't doing anything for you. So let's not do that. The quality of food does matter. However, calories are energy, and if you're active, you're going to burn them as fuel. If you're not active, you're going to store them as body fat. So you have to make a decision of understanding what your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate, so you know how much you need to be consuming. And if you're on some kind of fitness program, training program, you need to know how much you're eating to fuel that workout as well. And what keeps you in what keeps you in a sustainable caloric deficit, so that your body is using calories as fuel and not storing them as fat. If you're under eating, it is just as bad as overeating. It's the same thing on a different end of the spectrum. That's all.
Okay. I said last question, but so are you saying that my coffee, even if I put sugar, I'm no longer fasting?
No longer fasting.
Even if it's just regular
insulin, if you spark insulin production in your body, you're no longer fasting.
Wow. Okay, now, really last question on fitness. I typically don't stress myself about exercising when I'm, quote unquote fasting, because especially when I'm doing like a church fast, it's 21 days or 30 days or whatever. What would you say about that? Yeah, it was. Would you say those are good? Can you exercise? Should you not exercise? What would you say? Because you're not eating until like 7 p.m., 8 p.m.
No, it's funny you said that. So me and my stubborn ways, because this is like, fitness is a part of who I am, right? I get cranky when I don't work out. So I had to learn the ropes. The first week of the 21-day fast, I had to learn the ropes quickly. And it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, but you had to be disciplined in order to make it work for you. So I try to do the whole, okay, we can't eat until 7, and I thought I was going to go to the gym. And I didn't eat nearly enough for to meet my BMR. And I went to the gym, and I'm laying on the machine like pale in the face. I was the struggle bus. I was on it. I was right. I had every seat covered. so submitting to the program that was set before us, right? The fast that was set before us, I had to understand that lifting weights fasted can be dangerous because you don't have the energy. Your muscles don't have the fuel necessary to perform. But doing cardio, when doing that extensive of a fast, is not a bad thing, because fasted cardio is very much a thing, because what you're doing is you're forcing your body. So when you're in a state of cardio, your body's looking for a source of sugar or energy, if you will. If you have no sugar in your body, right, because you're fasting, you have no carbs in your body to turn into sugar, your body is going to start utilizing your body fat as fuel. And that's what everybody wants, right? We want to keep our muscle mass because that's what gives our body shape. And we want to rid ourselves of the body fat. So fasted cardio is very much a thing. However, fasted strength training, you might, whatever's the duration of your fast, put yourself in a position to get through that fast and then turn to, okay, now let me get back to my strength training. Because if you're trying to if you're doing anywhere between a 10 to 12 hour fast, you're not going to have the energy to lift. It's not going to be a thing unless you want to hurt yourself.
Okay. I just want all you church people to know that if you drink coffee, do it. I need to share this with Pastor Jide. So if you drink coffee doing fasting, you're not fasting. This year was the first time I actually went without actually drinking coffee throughout. And that was a thing for me. So you're telling me that all these past years, I've actually technically, I mean, not from a God perspective, because he's okay with it, but from a exercise or whatever physical perspective, I wasn't fasting. Wow.
So there's a video. Dr. Zaworski on the YouTube actually has a 28-minute video on intermittent fasting, which I use intermittent fasting with a lot of my clients because it's a style of eating. When people hear diet, they tend to cringe, they tend to tense up because they feel like you're taking what they enjoy away, not really understanding that when someone says diet or eating habits, we want you to eat. Your coach wants you to eat because we need that source of energy. We want you to do away with the things that are not giving you, that are not nutritionally dense, if you will. It's not feeding your body. It's not building you up. It's doing more. Sugar takes away from who we are as people. Sugar comes with sugar in the eyes is glaucoma. What they say, sugar in the blood is diabetes.
Yeah,
Sugar.
yeah.
I've just recently heard that they were saying
Yep.
where there's an abundance in sugar in different parts of our body, it's always related to disease.
Yeah.
So us being very mindful to stay away from processed sugar, because it doesn't do anything for you. Processed sugar has no benefits for the body.
Okay, all right. Reminding myself against chocolate. I can't take ice cream, but against chocolate. And then my coffee creamers. My coffee creamers are really
The
still what's doing
creamers
me.
are,
Yeah.
look, I don't know. Yeah, don't even start on the creamers, because that's chemical and sugar. That's processed sugar and chemical. It's
I
all that
can't even.
fructose syrup and a bunch of other chemicals and flavor. Creamer is toss it. Toss it.
I'm gonna try. I cannot promise you because coffee and me are like addicted, but I am working towards just black, or at least black with a little bit of sugar. That I don't actually like sugar. I don't like pouring it myself. I feel like I'm always going to do too much, so I try not to put anything with actual sugar. But it's always easier to kind of put like, oh, you just have to put 1 spoon of creamer or 1 spoon of
Yeah, because it's already
caramel.
sweet. Yeah.
Exactly, or 1 spoon of the syrup.
Even with the sugars too, trying to get as close to, if you feel like you absolutely need a spoon of sugar in your coffee, which is not detrimental, try to find the purest natural cane sugar that you can find.
Okay.
I just stay away from the white processed sugar, all the syrups, all the creamers. Go back to the source. And cane sugar is it. They also have coconut sugar out there.
Okay.
Which is, and believe it or not, it actually tastes really, really good, because years ago I was looking for alternatives to sugar, and there was a few of them out there. I'm not a fan of stevia, the plant, but stevia is another one that it's a sweetener that comes from a plant.
Okay. And then things like agave and
there you go.
honey.
Yep, agave nectar. Yep, and another one.
Okay, all right.
Honey.
Yeah,
actual honey. The honey in that little bear is processed honey. It's
I know.
I'm hurting everybody's feelings, right?
I know.
I'm hurting everybody's feelings. You want local honey in the jar that you got to scoop that has a little bit of the honeycomb still in it. Like, you want the good stuff.
I love it. Okay, we're really going to move away from fitness because I do have one question. I'm so happy to hear you talk about God. I don't remember. Maybe we just never talked about it. And I often feel bad because, you always knew I came from church, but I don't know if I ever invited you to church. But now we're in the same church. And look at how God works. I love it. I don't remember if you were back then still in church, going to church, but what has that been like for you? I know you mentioned now that you'd always kind of grown up in the church, but I do feel like this is a new you. And to talk to us a little bit about how that came to be and how you came to our church and all that good stuff.
So what's funny is you don't remember. We had a lot of Bible talks, but you were such a busy student that I'm sure I didn't expect you to remember it. So my mother grew up Catholic. She met my father. She transitioned to Baptist, but she always seemed to, because we moved so much because we were a military family, she always found these little storefront churches that were Bible-based. They didn't have a denomination. And that's where my heart just kind of opened up. Like I seen men of both honor, faith, dignity that were this little church. And I'll never forget the one in Virginia where the pastor used to have everybody in his living room. And then him and the men of the church got together and turned his barn into the chapel. And we ended up moving from Virginia before they finished. But I was watching these men build this church with their hands, with our offering in our hand, and something so honorable. I was just for me, it always sparked. That's the life I want to lead. Even overseas, when my freshman year of high school, when we went back overseas, and I remember my mother getting stuck in the snow in Germany. And one of the men from the church, again, she finds this little church. And one of the men happened to be pulling up behind us, and him and one of the guys from church in the full trench coat, hard bottom shoes, are pushing my mother in the snow, trying to get us through it. And I was like, man, like the bar was always set high in my eyes. And I always said that's the kind of man I want to be. I want to be a man of honor, dignity, respect, so on and so forth. So that stuff always stuck with me. The way my mother spoke of my grandfather always stuck with me. Because Papa, she was like, oh, Papa would, because my mother has all sisters. He would do our hair. He would help with dishes. He would help cook. Like, she just made this man sound like he was this superhero. Not only was he the leader, the faith leader, the provider, the head of the household, but he participated in anything and everything that had to do with family. And you got to remember, so my mother being Dominican, they didn't come here until she was 9. So I got the immigrant story,
Right.
in my bloodline. So when they speak about being hardworking, it's like all these things were instilled in me at a very young age. So when I set out on my own, don't get me wrong. At 18, I graduated high school and I left for college, and I had my very short worldly life because it was short lived. Because you talk about, look, when you remove yourself from the presence of God, you want to talk about chaos? You want to talk, oh man, at 18, 19, those were some of the toughest years that I had to endure because I thought I had it figured out. I'm a man now, like, in the house. I'm walking this path of my own. And I foolishly, almost like the prodigal son, give me my inheritance and let me run, right? So I went out there and thought I had it under control, right? And I go out into the world and I'm getting rock and rolled every corner I turn. If that would had to be, I remember first semester in, parents calling and saying they can't afford the dorms anymore. My father was having a very rough time transitioning from military life to civilian life because he had retired, amongst other stuff going on in the household, that he just wasn't the father figure that I was raised to believe that we had in the house. Like, he was really going through a dark time. So me being as bold, I don't know what made me do it, as I was leaving the house at 18 and thinking I had it all figured out, stepping away from my faith walk was just twofold of trouble between what's going on at home, family not being financially stable. Now I'm stepping away from my prayer, my faith life, and I'm trying to do it on my own. And God just kind of sat back and was like, "You got it." And he watched me take those lumps, But I do admire that he always kept a hedge up, because there's some things that could have went really wrong. He had this hedge of protection around me. He's like, "Child, like I'm not gonna let you do away with yourself, but you want to walk this road, go on and walk it, and take your lumps and bruises, and you'll be back." And I just remember just having to slow down and be like, I've always been a believer. I've always been a child that my mother instilled this great amount of faith in me. And I was always an obedient child. I followed the rules. I didn't like trouble. And that short stint really helped open my eyes to, if you stop, you know what it makes me think of? Deuteronomy chapter 28. The blessings of obedience.
Yes.
From chapter 1 to about 14 is all the things that you will get. From 15 to 68 is everything that's going to go wrong. Those are so many. So when you read, like, when you stop being obedient, the things that, oh my goodness, let me tell you. I had to go through it. It was short-lived, but I had to go through it. And there was nights, look, I didn't necessarily, at the time, I didn't look at it as a prayer closet, but I had to call my brother, because my parents were like, "Come home, we can't afford the dorms." Not doing that. I'm going to finish school one way or the other. So I called my brother, who had just graduated. He's living in Perth Amboy. I move in with him, but it's like a bachelor pad. Him and his roommate are freshly graduated, great jobs in the tech industry at the time. This is like 2001. 2001. So they're living the life. Nothing but traffic in and out. All their buddies from Rutgers, you name it. I'm just like, I can't study. So I turned their walk-in closet into my room. So I had to make myself like a little makeshift prayer closet. And I can't even begin to tell you how many nights I sat in that room praying, crying, growing, maturing, like just going through it. Like, is it fair to say baptism by fire?
Yes.
It was hard.
Yes.
It was hard. It was an awakening. But because I was always so structured, the things that were instilled in me, because I never let go of my faith, though I thought I was man enough to handle things on my own. Coming back to God was such a humbling experience in that little walk-in closet, and reconnecting on a prayer level, and having to get through school. I was working 2 full-time jobs and studying at the same time. So I really had to, because I refused to go home with all the dysfunction in the house, really had to figure things out on my own. And my brother wasn't really being lenient on me, if you will. I came in there, he handed me the electric bill and the cable bill and was like, "Welcome to the family. You got to take care of this." I was like, I didn't have a job at the time. I was just like trying to get through school. So it was a rapid experience of growth and maturity that I wouldn't recommend, because I even tell my kids, don't be in such a rush to leave the house. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to, I'm going to support you. If you're just out doing whatever you want, I mean, I'm going to pull that support, because we don't just get to live young, fast, and free. That's not, That that's not a thing, because that leads to the recklessness that gets us into a lot of unnecessary trouble.
Right.
But I support my kids tenfold when they're studying, when they're working hard, and they have aspirations to open a business. I'm the first one 10 toes down. Like,
Yeah.
how can I support what it is you're doing
Yeah.
and get you to the next level? So yeah, so church all the way through there. I was always looking for a church home through that college experience.
Mm.
Never really stuck to one place. Then I met my ex-wife of the time going into my junior year. And that's a whole that's a rabbit. We're not gonna chase
Yeah.
that
No. 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 No.
again, still trying to find churches, kind of pulling her along with me because she had a negative experience with the pastor of the church that she grew up in when she got
Right.
pregnant out of wedlock. So that was a whole nother so that was a whole nother hurdle. And I did that for for so long. And fast forward to around the time I met you, I was going to a small church in Carteret, storefront,
Okay.
very
Okay.
much Bible based. That was a great experience, but then the pastor kind of cashed in the small storefront church for a mega church down south. So that
Mm.
was a breaking and traumatic experience, because it's like, wow, like someone who's supposed to be, he claimed that the voice of God told him to start this little church, and then he banded us to go get the big paycheck, big
Mm.
church down south. So it was like, what just
Mm.
happened? He didn't have a church anymore. So
Right.
everybody kind of, went different places, and we all invited each other to check out, all these other different churches. Nothing ever really spoke to me. And then my fiance of today, the lessons I learned from my marriage before, our very first date was based around, how much we loved God, how much we believed in God, and the things that
Yeah.
we saw for ourselves. So that was very refreshing. So we visited a bunch of churches that we just weren't thrilled about. At the time, I was attending more frequently a church in Dumont, Living Word Christian Community Church.
Okay.
It was good, not great, but again, I wanted to just stay in the presence of God, so that's where I would go most often. And then we found a little storefront in Patterson that we were doing for much longer than anything, and that was around the time we got the house. We closed on the house, and we had drove by the church so many times because my daughter cheers right there in the Linden Roselle border. So we used to pass the church, and we'd always say, we got to go by and check it out. And I've always shied away from big churches.
Yeah.
So I was like, it looks big. I don't know that I want to I want to go there. We finally visited, and it immediately felt like home. And I felt it, but I didn't say, I kept my mouth hush. So then we visit again. And now Laura's like, oh my God, I really like this church. I was like, all right. So then we start visiting more often. So finally, the turn of 22 to 23 is when we told our pastor, look, we're going to join the church that we've been visiting for the last 3 to 4 months, because it's literally right by our house. They have Sunday school for the girls, because the little church, the kids are screaming. When you start small, there is no Sunday school for the kids. So it was one of those things where it was, the pastor really had big plans. Just, by the grace of God, he's instilled this orderliness and this discipline in me. Pastor really wanted me to kind of take over the men's leadership in the church. So it was a tough conversation.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was doing the right thing for my family, because it's like, I need my kids when I'm being filled with the word, I need my kids to be filled with the word as well. So us making that decision was tough. We still go visit them. Our pastor's son just turned 1. We were there at the birthday party. So we're still very close to everybody from Eternal Refuge, but they know that our church home is Agape. We joined a long time ago. It's funny. I still get as if I'm the new guy.
Don't worry, that's just me at the back end. But shout out to Agape House of Worship. I'm so excited. That's how I felt the first time I went there, because like you, I was like, I'm not going to a big Nigerian at the time, because we were still mostly Nigerian at the time. I'm like, nope, not doing it. And now it's so big, so rich, and I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful you found your way there. I really am. I feel like I should have just probably pulled you more.
I'm shocked I wasn't on stage. I was like, that's Nefeg. I was like, that's Nefeg. Laura's looking at me like, who? And I was like, years ago. Like, at the time, that was 2023. So I was like, I was like almost like 10, 11 years ago. Like, exactly. I was her trainer. And she was like, no way. And I was like, yes way. I was like, come to find out, small world. Small world.
We thank God. Okay. You get to ask me one question, because I have to let you go. But yes, you get to ask me one question.
One question. That is, it's funny you said that. with the career path, because I remember your story when you were on stage, and unlike some others probably, I got to watch you work so diligently to get your degree. Like, I remember you were just, it was education the first time we met. So it was, if we weren't talking about you studying, we were definitely talking faith, Bible, and all the other struggles of life. Yeah. Having gone through with your education and where your career is now, do you find, because this is a question I had to answer for myself a long time ago, because my parents were so adamant about going to college. And when I learned that I could have walked this same path without the education, it always kind of gives me a wayward feeling where it's like, I don't feel animosity towards going to get my education because the experience itself came with growth. Right. But knowing that I could have started in a different financial bracket because there's no expenses, right? Those school expenses take away from the income that you have garnished from having this education. Do you feel like there was another path? You, like, is your career not validated from what you had to go through to get your education, the ups and downs? Is the career worth everything you went through to attain that education?
Honestly, that's a really good question, because I don't want to say regrets, because pastor just told us to, move forward, right? And not think about our past. But I struggled for a long time with, God, why did you make me do this PhD? Like, I already had my master's. I could have started working. We could have figured something out. I know why I wanted to do it, because like I was thinking of future goals of being able to really walk into certain rooms because of the education and because of the implication of having that education, right? And I knew that I wanted leadership positions that provided me. But again, to your point, I think you said experience has a worth of gold, right? Like, I think that's how you kind of said it, right? I could have potentially also gotten that through actual lived work experience. Now, might it happen, maybe harder or even more painful or whatever? Yeah, but to your point that you just made about income, for example, I could have potentially saved money. So there's a bunch of ways to think about it, the pros and the cons. At the end of the day, I have to trust that God was doing something through it all, like even the ups and the downs. And I think that's just kind of where I leave it at, because there were many times in the past I really, really regretted it, and I really, really questioned it, and I really fought with God. And I'm like, why did you make me? You could have stopped me. You didn't, even if you told me not to continue, it would have still been like, because many people start a PhD and don't finish. Many, many people, right? But the perseverance and the diligence to even finish, like, why did you make me go through that? But I realized that he was, I still don't even always know if I know what he was taking me through, but I do realize he was taking me through something, and all will be revealed.
Yes, it does, because I know I've had the conversation with my parents, like, you were so adamant about us going to school, and the path I've taken, I could have did it without my education, and there's always a reason for it, but being able to relate, because I saw you go through the education process, and then I heard your testimony on stage, and I was like, I've had those feelings before, where it's like you start to see things unfold, and it's like, well, there's a path to be walked without the heavy burden of education, because education, like people think it's just getting the information, and it comes with so much more. There's so much more burden. There's so much more stress when you're trying to achieve that degree to unlock other doors. So there is a give and take in there, but like you said, the perseverance is worth its weight in gold, just as well as the on the job work experience is worth its weight in gold. So like you said, in due time, it actually reveals itself. And it all makes sense. But I just being able to relate to that, to your testimonial and the things that I saw beforehand. I thought that was a good question.
No, thank you. No, it was. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate you so much.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast, and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is The World Without People.